Sage in that Mercury retrograde away, negative energy stay no more. Hey, hey. Think you got some negative Mercury stank on you.
Mercury stank.
Welcome to Liberate University.
Welcome to another episode of Liberate University. Today, we're going to be talking about these beauties called crystals with Mercury retrograde and how you can use these to support, assist, and kind of push away some of maybe the negative juju or the complications that Mercury causes in people's lives. And we have Rebecca and Ellie from Ella Nora's Aura video, astrology videos. I said it all.
See, Mercury strikes. It's Mercury's first strike.
We're making a first strike, but definitely check out Ellie's astrology videos. There's a whole bunch of them. And every time for the new moon and full moon, she's helping you, assist you, does amazing written forecasts too for you. So check it out. We always post about it. And Rebecca is our astrologer too. And, you know, really, I'm just somebody that loves crystals. So they're going to guide you through the Mercury retrograde and what that means. And maybe I can help with some crystals.
Oh, yeah. I guess I'll jump in because I'm like probably the chattiest. So we also just want to take a minute to like honor Mercury energy because Mercury energy is great. It's a really great thing. And I thought we could start with what even is Mercury retrograde. I mean, I know people know, but then people also don't really know. Mercury is a planet, and like crystals, planets, to me, I think a lot of people also would agree with me that are in the metaphysical world, they're consciousnesses, they're extensions of divine consciousness. It's energy. Everything, these are all, we're all swimming in a sea of energy. It's a language of energy is what astrology is. I think Eleonora said that in her podcast, and I was like, I'm taking that because it's good. So yeah, when we're dealing with Mercury, we're dealing with a specific planetary energy. And when we're dealing with crystals, we're dealing with energy as well. And so it's all sort of like, I think of crystals as medicinal, right? They're like vibrational medicine that can sort of help us to hone and attune our energy. And the planets can help us with that too. So it's not just like these things are happening to us. I personally like to think that we can work with them. What are your thoughts on that, Ellie?
Definitely. And especially a lot of people think astrology causes things, but it's just like a correlation of events. It's like, it's an indicator. It's not like, and like I said in another podcast that I did about astrology, it's like Mercury is not making you like go in and text your ex, you know what I mean? And press send on your phone, you know, it's just like, it's indicating that like, oop, you might fall back into old patterns with like communication or intellect or stuff like that. You know what I mean? So it's just an indicator, and that helps with navigating the energy, like you said.
But you know, there's a whole bunch of people that like to play blame game and responsibility on everybody else but them. And they'll be like, no, Mercury made me press that send button.
But see, when technology down, then I'm like, that's Mercury doing that. It's the energy of the planet just being like, nope, not today.
Not today, right? But I always wondered too, as well, like it's all, again, it depends on who you speak to. So I can only speak for myself, but I know that this is a shared sentiment or belief among a lot of people that do this work. And I think that everything is in a higher cosmic order, right? Mm-hmm. So like the planets, the people, the minerals, the plants, the trees, the piggies, you know, everything in the universe, this is my current working theory, is in some form of divine order. And so these Mercury retrograde periods are also a part of that. So I guess maybe let's like establish real quick, what is Mercury energy? What is the energy or the consciousness of this planet Mercury? Like, what do you guys both think of when?
Well, and also, you know, to make sure that you talk about when it goes in retrograde, what does that mean? You know, like because I think a lot of people, it's probably one of the most common astrology like terms that is thrown around. Oh, Mercury's in retrograde. But a lot of people that aren't really in this, and even I find myself too being like, it's in retrograde again. Like, how many times does it go into retrograde? And so like, what does that mean? And then for me, like, sometimes it affects me differently at different times. So maybe you can elaborate on that too.
Absolutely.
But I definitely, I mean, we can speak to that right now. I'm like, that's on my list of everything. Okay. But, like Mercury is an energy. It's a consciousness, a planet. It's in, it travels pretty quickly generally, and it goes retrograde 3 to 4 times a year. So depending on what sign it's going retrograde in, the energy will be different, because the sign that it's, you can think of it as like, a person traveling through an environment, right? So like, depending on what environment it's in, the flavor of that retrograde will be different. Or even if it's direct, right? When Mercury is direct in a given sign, the flavor or the energy is different of that, as well as how the other planets are angled to Mercury in the sky. It's like, what kind of conversations are they having? Are they tense conversations? Are they nice conversations? Are they easy flowing conversations? And so it is different every time, because Mercury will go through every sign in the zodiac in the span of a year. It goes a little quicker than the sun. The energy of Mercury as well, I almost said he goes, but I'm like, Mercury is known to be sort of an androgynous or a non-binary energy, like historically as well. So it flips from this to that, and it's very mutable and changeable. I think I'm jumping ahead of myself a little bit. I was like, we were going to get into the significations of what Mercury is, but that's just to answer that question. That's one of the reasons why it feels different at different times. And then if you get really into astrology, there's like other stuff as well, like, in your personal chart, different timing techniques, whether Mercury is the time lord for you for that year. That's like a whole other podcast, but Ellie, you got anything to add here?
No, I think you pretty much, covered. Yeah. I mean, Mercury, we established, is like the mind, the intellects, the communication patterns, how you connect with other people. It's the speech, like creativity and all that stuff, like writing, those are pretty much like Mercury themes and what can be affected during retrogrades. Yeah.
Actually, let's is your phone ringing? That's very mercurial. That's like within the realm of Mercury too. So let's actually go in to slow down, because I don't think we did establish really what Mercury's significations were. So you just kind of like broke that down really quick. So let's just like say it slowly again for those in the back, right? So it's like, it's the mind, thinking patterns, speech, all forms of communication. I think it's really like a moving around energy a lot. Like after I had Mercury as my time lord last year, I was like, holy crap. Like I moved like 5 times. It's like, are you kidding me? It's very busy. It's doing a lot of stuff. And it's, it's a flexible, it's a mutable energy. So it rules over the signs of Virgo and Gemini, which are earth and air signs, but they're both mutable. They're both shifty and changey. Writing, speaking, thinking, learning. And I think like technology, like you said, is a big thing. It does rule. I always think of it as connection, not just communication, but it's like, even if you're dealing with signals, helping one thing connect to another thing, because that kind of links in with the travel theme of moving around. Like Mercury is often like short trips and bipping and bopping, like bip, 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 all over the place. And it's like you're connecting the dots from one thing to another. And so these are all, and trade, like Mercury is a merchant's planet as well that rules trade and commerce. And so those are all things about making connections and networking and.
But you often hear about it with communication though, and technology.
Yeah. Well, right. But so it's like, it was responsible for like, carrying messages from God to God, and just like, and it's like known as the prankster, like Mercury is also like funny and goofy, and just like likes to play jokes. Cause it's like, it's that witty energy that a lot of people actually find with Geminis too, being like that witty, quick conversation, being able to like talk to a wall and just make it interesting. It's like, that's very Mercury energy to me.
Totally. And I love that you said it's the messenger, because that's like the most basic thing we could say. And I didn't say that.
Yeah.
So like I'm, tend to be like a very verbose, and sometimes it takes me a long time to just like get right to the thing. And Ellie's like, Mercury is the messenger.
You say all these things, and I was like, what about the communication aspect? Like,
Yeah, I said that. But I was trying to like figure out how they all factor together, right? So like the traveling, right? The electronics and the communications, right? All have like a theme of connecting, right? From one thing to another. But yes, it is the messenger. So very much speech. and like writing and thinking and learning and thinking too, like the mind, you know, just whether you have a busy mind or not. So those are big Mercury significations. And of course, yeah, electronics, computers. I just think major purchases too, like people always say, don't.
Yeah.
So when Mercury is moving backwards in the sky, he or they are never moving backwards, like really. It's just from our vantage point on Earth, it appears to be that way. So it's like the way that we experience that energy. So things that Mercury rules or Mercury energy need to be reviewed or revisited. So the way I think about it is it's like a higher divine order that's asking us to reintegrate something that we might think we've already we're like, no, I'm good. I'm charging forward. We're good here. And then it's like, nope. Like you don't even realize that there's like this, and this that's like back there that you need to, that needs further integration. Right. So these are what these periods are for, I suppose, in my current understanding. What do you think, Ellie?
I think, retrogrades in general are usually like times to revisit, rethink, restructure if necessary, just like retrace your steps and make sure, even if you're not specifically doing any big changes, it's just really good always to just make sure you're taking the necessary steps and doing what's necessary to succeed in the long term. Especially like with deals, you know, if you're signing contracts and everything, like that's the most commonly being like, don't do it during Mercury retrograde. And if you have to absolutely do it, just make sure you double, triple read, like fine prints, fine lines, you know, just make sure everything is all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. Yeah. Just make sure that's the best advice, you know, because sometimes you can't stop your life for, you know, these planetary movements or retrogrades. It's like people need to keep living, and it's all about molding to that energy and working with that energy. Like nobody's going to stop you from signing a contract if you need to do it. You know what I mean? But just make sure you yeah.
Totally. And one of the
go ahead. Like X is coming back. Also like, you know, like these revisiting of things. I just find it ironic as we're filming this, we're starting construction on a new space, and I had a million issues of construction for years at the old space. And so it's almost like redoing the construction one more time. Here we go again.
You started the old space during a Mercury and a Venus retrograde. That's when you signed the contract for that. That's when you made that deal. I remember being like, woo!
And so maybe this means that it's finally like going to be finishing, revisiting something new.
It's a do-over, right?
The close of it. Yeah. Not the close of the new space, but the close of all of that horrible energy. But back to like, you know, the people attributing this, what are the most common things that people attribute to them experiencing in the physical, right? What are some manifestations of this energy? And then we can kind of move into like, what are these little gemstones and how they can be used for that?
Yeah. I think a lot of people have car trouble during Mercury retrograde, especially with strong Mercury placements or Mercury is aspecting their natal Mercury in some shape, way, or form. Definitely technology breaking down. But there's a lot of people that have Mercury retrograde in their charts, and actually when Mercury is retrograde, it's an easier time for them because they're used to that energy, you know what I mean? And it's just like, they're just kind of going with the flow. So it's very interesting to see how it affects people, you know, depending, but usually it's like technology, travel problems, you know.
And research.
Yeah, and
it's like people from the past, you know, maybe connections that you made from the past coming back up. for either a purpose, like revision, or just like they're not done like whatever lesson they needed to teach you in your life and they're coming back, or whatever it is. There can be a number of things.
It's like the universe bringing back things that need to be integrated and revisited for either final closure, or maybe there's something about that is worthy of being salvaged and brought forward with you. Like people sometimes get back together on like Mercury or Venus retrogrades. Sometimes exes pop back up so you can remember exactly why you're done with that chapter. So it's really still like, you have an individual responsibility to work actively with the energy but it's a great time. It's a bad time for like booking trips and stuff like that. Doesn't mean you can't do it, but it's just like Ellie said, it's like a little bit more weird. It's funky for like car stuff, because cars are not only electronics, but they're also like moving from place to place. You have the travel signification. So it's like not an amazing time to do planned travels and trips. Miscommunications are much easier. So like you think you were crystal clear, but there was just people were just not understanding each other, and you find out later that what you said, the other person heard something totally different, even though you could have sworn you were like super clear about it. And like or you say something and it wasn't taken the wrong way, or like all of those types of things are big that come up. And then, exes and stuff coming back. Back up your files. That's like the other big thing that you say. Like my hard drive just started to die the other day, and I quickly transferred all the files off it. So like Mercury goes retrograde tomorrow, but you find when the planet takes a minute to come to a full stop, like it starts to slow down before, like tomorrow is the 29th of May, right? So that's when we'll have Mercury retrograde, but it's already like basically not moving at all. And the station periods can be the most intense because it's not even going backwards, it's just standing still, right? So those few days on either side of the retrograde are also good to just like be mindful, like don't mess around, like back up your files, upload them to a cloud. I don't know, like read your contract a couple extra times, whatever.
Yeah. What about you personally, like internally, what goes on with, like, is that a revisiting of yourself and what you want type of energy, or what happens to people with that energy internally?
It's very, it's very subjective too, because everybody has their own birth chart, and your birth chart is divided in what we call the houses, which are different areas of life that are represented. So wherever Gemini is in your birth chart, whatever house it occupies, it'll be those themes that are coming up, whether it's finances, whether it's love, maybe business, or like other people's resources, maybe it's your subconscious. It just depends on where it falls in. But overall, it can be, it's definitely of the mind, maybe rethinking some patterns that we have that are ingrained deep in us, that have us responding some sort of way to some sort of interactions. And maybe we need to revisit those things, or, stuff like that. But it really just depends too. And this is where I like encourage everybody that has, the privilege and the access to know their time of birth and when they were born, just to really look at their charts to get to know yourself a little bit more, and to understand the way that your mind functions, and why we are a certain way, or why we respond a certain way, or why we have these kind of connections and conversations. And
I like that.
Yada, yada.
Yeah, and like the Gemini and Virgo ruled houses of your chart, because the Mercury rules both, but we're going to have Mercury retrograde in Gemini like tomorrow. That's why it's like extra, but it's like, so it's like the individual, it's different for different people and at different times as well. But generally, like if we're focused on it, it's like those significations, communications, electronics, travel, thinking and writing, and just the way that your mind is working, right? So anybody have any more to ask or to say about Mercury before we talk about crystals?
No, I think we should talk about crystals now. Yeah.
Cool. What you got there, Cristina?
I have lepidolite in my hand. Piggy has a emerald underneath her harness in the front and a chrysocolla in her chest. She's all crystalled up here, and it's calmed her down, my little Gemini.
Oh, she's a Gemini.
Yeah, she just had her birthday.
Oh, happy birthday, Pig. I'm just like looking.
Ellie pulled a whole bunch by some of your recommendations. Yeah. So, I mean, maybe we can go over what you guys pulled and why, and elaborate on maybe some of the way that they can be used, how they can help and assist, how can they add, support or clearing energy to you while you're going through whatever some of these energies are. So here's all of the crystals here. Rebecca, is there any one that you want us to pull first and kind of talk about?
Actually, I would just see which ones you would both intuitively go to first. So I'm a firm believer that with crystals, like you should always kind of go intuitively, because what you need might be something that your conscious mind like doesn't even know. But so like you just go with what resonates with you. But of course, the ones we've pulled are like we used our mind to put the themes together. So like what's resonating with you guys? Like, did you guys pull any that weren't on the list, or?
I just the ones that were on the list, but out of the table. Like, I mean, I grabbed lepidolite, which is interesting. That it's all about balance, emotional balance, calming. During this time, I feel like my head's going do, but it just like I just needed it. I just needed to pull it and hold it, and I've been like holding that. Lepidolite's an interesting stone. It's made from it is lithium, and so lithium is one of the main components in a lot of bipolar medications, and so literally ground up of this stone helps create emotional balance in people that have manic and depressive episodes, right? And so that is a very interesting dynamic to lepidolite. Plus, it's really cool. It's flaky. It's got, the yellow is actually mica and the purple is lepidolite. So you got both of them in there, but you can get them in tumbled so that it doesn't flake apart a little bit easier. You can get it, where it has a little bit more like quartz mixed into it, a little sturdier, kind of adds that magnification to it. But I love lepidolite. It's a pretty stone. It's also something that you can make art with. You can, like they use it as the dust of it can be really, really fine. Like you can literally peel it apart and have like these sheets. Cool stone. If it's clean, you can put it in water and actually drink the energy of the water from it.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I would have been worried that one was like one of the non-water safe ones, or that it would be toxic. I didn't know that.
No, well, when they're stabilized. So a lot of times when stones are stabilized, they add a sealant to it to hold the stone so it doesn't break apart. Mm-hmm. So you see how this one's all glossy. It doesn't peel apart at all. It's like
bring
really
it in closer because we can't see it actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So but it's not flaky versus in the raw. Ellie, you want to show this? It's flaky. It's peeling apart. The edges are literally like crumbly. And so if you're getting it in the raw, you just rinse it really nicely. So you make sure it doesn't have any other like kind of components on it that could be like other minerals that were growing next to it, but you don't want to put something stabilized in your water because a lot of times they stabilize it with a chemical.
Yeah.
But this is raw, natural, good, but you have to be rinsed.
Okay, good to know. So knowing the significations of Mercury, why do you think lepidolite would be such a good thing for Mercury retrograde?
I think a lot of people, if they're having some problems and complications with technology, communication, old emotional things being brought up by running into old situations that need to be healed from the past, you need emotional balance, you need calming, you need a level of peace in your life, and that can be a stir up where lepidolite can help pull you back down.
Yeah, for sure. I think also because Mercury's energy, depending on where it is, can be quite busy. Like it can just be like, beep, 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 like everywhere, right? There just can be like so much going on that it just kind of like lepidolite seems to have like a stabilizing sort of energy.
Yeah.
And I think that that can be really needed, just to kind of calm and ground people.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think he likes it.
Yeah. So, Ellie, like when would you pick intuitively from the?
Think fluorite, because I mean, me having a debilitated Mercury like natally, I already have sometimes a hard time like
I just went like this.
it's just especially with English being my second language. Sometimes it's really hard to speak, get my mind in order, and then I can't think of the words that I want to say. And then when I want to talk in Spanish, I'm like, oh my God, I can only say it in English and I don't know what's happening. Sometimes carrying fluorite with me helps me not only ground, but get focused as well when like my mind is everywhere, especially now, like we have the South Node in Sagittarius, like it's right on top of my natal Mercury. So I feel like drained. Like I can't think properly. I can't sit down and write or like let my creative juices out or anything. And I think sometimes carrying fluorite can help me connect with not only my creativity, but also my higher self. Because sometimes it's both like green and purple, which helps tap into those frequencies, not only the heart frequency with the green, but also the crown chakra frequency with the purple. Just connect to my higher self, to my purpose, to like what I really want to communicate, what I really want to say, how I want to like communicate my feelings and stuff like that. So I think, especially for Mercury retrograde, it can help ground and it can help focus on those things that you really need to focus on and really need revisiting and just like restructuring, rethinking, all of that good stuff. So I think that would.
That's amazing that you guys both picked. Like, it's funny because I think Mercury retrograde, I think of all these blue stones, right? Throat chakra, communication, and we have lots of those that we can look at. But the two of you went to like the stones that are actually in like the mental wellness like bundle that we're doing. So like fluorite, I've never shared this with anyone, but before I really like knew what I was doing in the metaphysical world, but I was still drawn to crystals. I was going through this horrible time when I was like 18 or 19 with like the worst panic attacks, like every day. I mean, it was like super PTSD, like through the roof. And at that time, I remember buying a big honkin' piece of fluorite that was like wrapped, and I just wore it for like a couple years. And later I was just so drawn to it. I was like, I need to have that. And I later realized like fluorite will clear chaos. Like it has like a clearing of, it brings order to things and just kind of dissipates like mental junk. And so it's, not necessarily like the first stone that would have come to mind for Mercury retrograde, but also it's so good for this kind of chaotic mental energy or just frenetic energy, because Mercury retrograde can be very ungrounding as well. It depends on what else. I mean, it depends on what else is going on in the sky. But right now we have a lot of planets in air, which is light, and it's just like it's very mental, right? And so anyway, I just love that you guys started with like lepidolite and fluorite. Let me just browse my list here, because so the other one that I would pick based on what I've researched that I probably wouldn't choose intuitively because it's not as cute to me, but is Demorturite. It's a lesser known crystal. No one's really talking about it. It's like not one of the cool kids.
Which one?
But Demorturite, yeah. So as you can see, it is a blue stone, and blue stones in general, like one of the rules with crystals, one of the rules with crystals that's sort of general is that, the colors correspond to the chakras they're going to work with. It's not always that cut and dry, but like it's pretty across the board. There's going to be some resonance. So if we're dealing with communications, we're going to be dealing with the throat and with like the third eye and the mind. And those are all sort of like those blue hued stones. So any stone that's blue is going to have some sort of communication properties. But Demorturite in particular, I remember a couple years ago being in the shop and someone was explaining to me how it had really helped them and their child with ADHD and hyperactivity and like it's so interesting. I mean, we can't make these claims really medically, but so Demorturite, I'm just gonna go into real quick my crystal encyclopedia that I'm working on and read this out. So it is the stone of order. And the keywords for it are intellect, communication, and organization. And I was like, yeah, those are all like such hitting the nail on the head.
Yeah.
You know, we get disorganized, or we think we're organized, but we're not. And so, yeah, just restructuring. And also we're trying to create order. Like a lot of the times you were saying, Ellie, in Mercury retrograde, we're like revisiting, reviewing, redoing, revising. It's like an amazing time to retrieve like old projects that we just abandoned or like never finished, you know, less of a great time to start new things because we need to go back and like finish our potatoes that we didn't eat before. And so having that be a stone of order can really help us bring order to some of like the chaos that's fallen by the wayside in our lives, or like that unfinished business. And I just love that. And it is a stone that helps organization, which is like a great thing to be doing with your time during a Mercury retrograde, is to be reorganizing, like, you know, cleaning out your space, cleaning out the junk. It's like what needs to stay, what needs to go, all of those things. And it's so great for communication. So the extended definition of this, I'll try to go quickly, but boosting brain power, self-discipline and organization, intellectual activity, studying and learning of all kinds, but especially things like math and linguistics, retention of information, overcoming shyness and nervousness and stuttering and any sort of speech issues, speaking up, clearing the throat. So if you have a hard time actually speaking your truth, or, you know, saying what you want to say, or you can't find the right words, it's great for that. It helps with confidence. And so you can speak what is true for you. Public speaking, assertiveness, boundaries, just calming the mind, wisdom in chaos, ability to cope in crisis, mindfulness, mental balance, serenity. Like it has a calming effect as well. So there's like a healthy detachment sort of vibe and energy. A real focus on constructiveness, like, okay, things might be problems, but like, how do we fix this? And then there is also like a creative flow and self-expression energy with that as well. So it says it can help with decision making. And yeah, it's great for anxiety as well. Like, I think it just really brings sort of like a stabilizing energy, but not in a way that's like heavy or dense. Like just in a way that it's like, wow, all this stuff is happening. Like let's just like laser focus in on it. And so when I found Demorturite, I was just like, wow, that's like such a great stone for Mercury retrograde.
I like it.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah. So I could go on and on. I know that we've been on this call for a little while. And like, Cristina, how many more crystals should we go through?
Let's do like maybe another round each. Yeah, maybe another three. Another three. And, you know, we can always list a couple extra at the bottom of some other ones that people can tap into.
What I'll do is actually I'll make the full list that I pulled. I gave them my Mercury is in Aries, so like everything is really just like super like full on intense. I'll make the full list available as a blog post with like links to each stone for people that want the full deal after. And I'll put that information in the notes.
And this is applicable to any Mercury retrograde, you know, so no matter when you're finding this or watching this, doesn't matter if we gave some dates earlier, if it's after the fact, you're good.
Mercury retrograde, yeah.
We're evergreen.
So speaking of green, I got a green stone here. I got emerald, and I'm drawn to this stone as Ellie's going to help me because I have Piglet on my lap. So emerald is really a nice heart opener and success stone. It's kind of like mimics in the both of them. It's a stone of luxury. It's a stone of wealth. It's a stone of love. Really a lot of loving energy, heart opening. I think I'm drawn to this particularly. Mercury retrograde, at least for me, seems to always affect me to go back and get organized. And most of my life is work related, right? So it's like recreating systems, doing other things that to set up, revisiting old ways that need to be changed, order, that. But I don't want to have to redo it again. So I wanted to create systematic success. And so, like if you're working towards anything, I think with business and career wise, working with Emerald and also pulling you back into your heart space, but also assisting you with that success and wealth energy in the times when you're reclaiming order. What would you say?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that's pretty.
And they're pretty.
Really pretty.
I mean, Emerald seems like, again, like I wouldn't have pulled this, but I actually, while you were talking, I just like looked it up and I was like, so funny. I saw somewhere that Emerald was associated with Mercury from like the ancient astrologers had associated emerald energy with Mercury, and now that's not in my notes. So I'm like, that's why I pulled it. I was like, this requires more research because it's not something that is like particularly well known. It's like sort of more like you got to go kind of like deep astrology to find that kind of stuff. But it is a stone of merchants, right? Emerald, and like you said, like it's like a wealth and business stone and a heart energy as well, which is nice. And that can always be balancing. I think Mercury does rule commerce and trade and business. So it ties in that way. But I think coming back into that heart energy as well is helpful just in general. And now I'm going to have to go research more about how Mercury is associated with emerald. Yeah.
Well, I'm picking the weird ones.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, that's the one that but I think most of the stuff back there were blue. But.
Yeah, I think, I'm again not going to pick a blue stone. I was going to pick lapis because that's like traditionally Mercury stone, but I think Smoky Quartz, like it's important to have grounding during Mercury retrograde, how we said, especially this year because Mercury goes retrograde in all the air signs. It went retrograde in Aquarius back in February, and now it's Gemini, and then it's going to be retrograde in Libra during Libra season. So I think it's like really important to have grounding, and you can have like Smoky Quartz is really beautiful because it can come in like a light version, or it can come in like a really dark, like deep brown version. I don't know how great my camera is, but I think it's really important to have grounding and balancing and something to like rely on when we're feeling too heady, especially like Mercury being the planet of intellect and communication. Sometimes we can get too into our heads and just like be super floaty doty, and we have to just bring it down and bring it to reality and just like really go about like, okay, what's tangible? Like what can I ground in? What can I actually make decisions on? I don't know if this is making sense, but it's just like, I feel like there needs to be some sort of anchor, to ground you back to reality and just be like, okay, girl.
Yeah.
You
can use tiger's eye too.
Yeah.
But, these are that also is good for protection as well, which,
it's funny. Oh yeah, no, totally. It's funny and just clearing smog and energy out, clearing chaos. It's funny because there's a zillion different stones for protection and grounding, right? And I was like, we obviously really need that during crazy Mercury energy, but I was like, which stones are the ones that feel right on an intuitive level? Because I always still ask myself this, like I just tap in, and anyone can do this. And there's something about the quartz variety that quartz is light and bright and you can kind of see through it. And it feels more mercurial to me. Like even though Mercury also rules Virgo, which is an earth sign, it's like a different sort of quality. I'm going to do a terrible job at explaining this because it's just a feeling I'm trying to verbalize right now. Help me, Mercury. But Smoky Quartz has a grounding and clearing property where it can kind of absorb and like dissolve or dispel chaos and negativity, but it's not so like dense and heavy that it doesn't resonate with the sort of higher frequency of Mercury, if that makes sense. Like it almost like, I feel like it would be more effective at grounding and clearing than a black tourmaline for me. Maybe it's just for me, because it's in that quartz energy, which is like able to interact more with the mercurial energy. I know that I feel like I'm trying to explain something that's just so beyond explanation. And it might be different for somebody else, right? Because you might be like, no, I need black tourmaline right now. But for me, I just feel like it would be because of that quartz property of being sort of cleared and high elevated air-like vibration, that it would be more maybe potentially effective at really getting in there and some of that mind craziness. Is that making any sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what's another crystal pick for you?
All right, my last one. Let me look at my list because I can't see where you guys are. So, blue kyanite. It's got to be blue kyanite. That's like such a classic communication stone. Like, you know, and for example, like if you're going to have one word for Mercury retrograde, or even just for Mercury, it's probably going to be communications is probably going to be the first word. It's nice. And if someone walks into the store and they're like, I need a crystal for communications, is blue kyanite not going to be one of your top recommendations?
Yeah.
Like it probably will be. You know, so this is another one that actually I didn't research very well yet. I didn't go through like the whole thing and putting it in the crystal encyclopedia that I'm doing up, but we can all talk about this, like the energy of it. I find it is very opening of the throat center, and it just facilitates like a greater ease of movement, like through, like out. And then also the throat chakra also rules listening. So it's like being able to listen is as important, if not more important, as being able to speak. But it's an opening energy. It's going to open that channel. So again, I think we need to be careful because for people like me, I don't have issues speaking my mind, but I could put my foot in my mouth, right? Or I could say something that like, I could make a mistake with my words, or so having an open channel might not necessarily be like helpful to me if I'm dealing with Mercury retrograde. I don't need help saying stuff. I might need help being more careful with what I say. So I might need like the Smoky Quartz, but somebody else might just, they already have issues with speaking their truth or speaking up or clarifying their words. They might find a blue kyanite stone to be so helpful because it's just going to be like greasing the wheels. And it's like, oh, finally, like the words can come out, you know? What do you guys think?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think blue stones are really stimulating for the throat chakra. So definitely if somebody is if their issue is speaking, you know, like they have an issue speaking their minds, they hold too much in, I would definitely say blue stones all the way for you. You need to get it out instead of keeping it in. If you have a hard time shutting your mouth, you know what I mean, and just being grounded, I would be like, anything but a blue stone for you, honey. Like, you do not need that. You need to reel it in and not put it out. So I think it's a good range, you know.
Yeah.
Out here.
Yeah. A couple other ones that we have here. We have Sodalite and Lapis that we kind of mentioned. Those are both also really good communication. Lapis and Sodalite also, besides being communication, are really good Ashna stones, which is your third eye. That third eye, yes, a lot of people attribute it to intuition, but it's willfulness. It's your ability to move forward. So sometimes when you're feeling like you're moving backwards, maybe having a little bit more willfulness to push you forward is really helpful, and allowing you to stand in that power and force. And the K2 that has some azurite in it. You know, that's azurite's also a beautiful blue stone with communication. The granite, it's azurite with granite is what K2 is. So really pretty stone. Also can help with those kind of themes, you know, and then they all have a different subtle energy to them. Just like I did the distinction between just communication in your throat and speaking your truth versus willfulness. But even within there's, you know, each stone's going to feel slightly different in vibration. It's going to affect you a little bit differently. Think about stones like wine.
Exactly.
Okay?
That's genius.
So if you think about stones like wine, You know, like each stone is like a different type of wine, a Cabernet versus a Pinot versus this. But even within that family of stones, you might actually pick up a couple different ones and they might feel different to you, even though it's the same stone. Not all carnelian feels the same. Not all smoky quartz, like Ellie was sharing, the darker version versus the lighter version, right? It's going to have a slightly different energy. It's like, you know, maybe a 1998 versus a 2020 like bottle of, you know, vintage Pinot Noir. And then where was that Pinot Noir from? Was it from Burgundy or was it from there? And all of the stones come from different regions in the world that all give it different energy based on where it was formed, where was its energy, where was its birth chart when it was born, right? You know, like, you know, tying in the astrology of it is that literally you can tell the difference between like a rose quartz from Mexico and a rose quartz from Madagascar. And I mean, I've been working with stones for years, you know, and even people that are way more evolved than me, but you see the difference. Rose quartz from Madagascar is more like gemmy-ish purple. Rose quartz from Mexico is more of a lighter pale pink, you know, so, you know, like, but then where were they located? But they're going to have a different energetic vibration, even though they're both opening the heart, right? Mm-hmm. So it's best that you play with the crystals that are good for you. You know, we can give you guidance and say, you know, stones that are good for grounding, stones that are helping you with communication, stones that are going to help you move forward to success, are all stones that are good for Mercury retrograde. Yeah. So where you pick and what you pick, that's the beauty of working with yourself. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That?
Nope. No, just there's a couple that are on the list that I love that we didn't get a chance to talk about. So be sure that you check out the blog, which will be linked in the YouTube notes. That'll have a more extensive directory of recommended crystals. Some of them, just to name them, Sodalite, the writer's stone, Botswana agate, which is the stone of equilibrium, but it's also great for stability and artistry. So for people that are going back and reviewing projects, redoing, like reclaiming old projects and things like that. And then rutilated quartz, the stone of solutions and illumination. So that could be good. And hematoid quartz, stone of problem solving, which is for balance and grounding and accelerated healing. And so I'll have a lot more about each of those linked for you to check out. And there's another link that you can check out that just gives down a process of how to work with crystals intuitively if you're super new to that, like how to kind of do a wine tasting with them. Basically, like what Cristina just said. So I just wrote this document yesterday that kind of takes you step by step on how to do that. And you can do it even if you don't have the physical crystal present. You can do it like in a quick meditation. So you can really sample energetically how things feel and what stone might feel good for you. Yeah.
She's barking.
She agrees.
She agrees.
She agrees.
Yeah. So then if you have any, you know, other also things that we can link, Ellie's videos that she does for the full moon, new moon, change them up as we go. Also links to doing sessions, you know, with you, Rebecca, for astrology chart readings. Ellie, once she starts doing them, we'll make sure hers is down there too. Little push forward, nudge, nudge, hit, hit. But, you know, like, yeah, we're here for you. If there's anything else that you want us to talk about, go into more detail on, please leave comments, share, like, subscribe, all of the fun things, gizmos and gadgets. It helps, you know, if you like the content that we're making, if you like, share and let us know other things that you want, we can better serve you, but we can also continue to do this. Mm-hmm. All right.
Oh, yeah. And we have all these in the online store. Like in the next day or two, they'll all be in there. So as we're filming this, I'm like, we'll make sure that they're all purchasable for anybody that wants them. We'll ship anywhere as well. So everything's linked down below in the little notes. So check it all out. If you're going to buy crystals, we'd love your support. We have some really great stuff. And much love and Mercury retrograde blessings. This can be a very positive period for you to like retrieve, review, renew, redo, everything, all of the re's.
Love the re's.
Yeah. It's always a productive period for me. Well, thank you everybody for joining. And until next time, see you later. Bye.
Thank you for being a part of this class. We hope to see you at the next one.
Hi, Cristina here, founder of Liberate. I wanted to let you know that all of our amazing practitioners, healers, and intuitives are available for remote sessions. And we are continuously adding new classes, workshops, and meditations to serve you every week. Thank you for joining us, and I hope that we can help you liberate yourself.